Hello and welcome, I'm Tavaragadamu. My guest today, the adventurous helicopter pilot Ben Simpson, has been in and out of Ethiopia for at least a decade. Of course, flying tourists with big money. And he has a very long list of those kinds of people flying with him. And he joins me today to talk about that and how it all started in Nairobi, Kenya, way back in 1997. Ben, a very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you, Safar.
Let me start with a quote that I gathered when I was doing research on you. You'd said at one point, "I would warrant that I know the ground from northern Ethiopia to the border of South Africa better than any man alive today. I know the nooks and crannies, the cool valleys to fly, and the places where there is a waterfall because I spent time in every place along the way." Well, that's too much.
It's quite a bold statement, actually.
It is a bold statement. What does that exactly mean?
Well, you know, I've been very fortunate in that in the 21 years that I've been flying helicopters, I've managed to spend a lot of time in all the countries between here and South Africa.
5 countries.
Well, yeah, more than Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Mozambique, Zambia, and Botswana and Namibia. Yeah, not so much in South Africa. But we've been doing safaris in all of those locations, and while we're there, my job is to explore. It's to show people the places that are off the beaten track, and to find those interesting places, and to find those interesting wildlife stories and tribal cultures. And along the way, we work alongside very good local guides, and it's through my time with them that I've been lucky enough to learn those places extremely well from the air.
From the air, which also means picking new destinations, right?
That's right. You know, we're always looking for somewhere new to go. In fact, this year we're working towards going to Chad, which will be a first for us, going up to the Sahara and exploring the desert, the Sahara Desert, and some of the national parks in Chad. So for me to keeping it fresh and keeping it interesting, it's all about getting new ground and going to new places. And you know, we've got a client base that's continuously coming back to us. Once we've been through Kenya, Ethiopia, and all these other places, they're asking me, where are we going next? So it's important that we keep pushing out.
Are you talking about the same clients who have been flying with you?
That's right. Yeah, we get a lot of repeat business. Yeah, in our company. Yeah, exactly. You know, I've had people that have come on trips with me, 5 or 6 different trips over the last 10 years, and so they're always looking for something new to do, and it's good for us to be able to keep new itineraries coming to them.
So. Which one was, flying a helicopter with a few people, quite often, what is 2 or 3 people flying with you?
We generally carry 4 people in each helicopter as a maximum, but we have a number of aircraft. So sometimes our trips can be with 4 helicopters. We've done a trip recently in Botswana with 4 aircraft.
Wow.
I much prefer the smaller trips. They're more intimate. It's nice to have 1 aircraft, 1 small group, and it gives us an opportunity to become friends, and we're sort of traveling companions. Because it's often as much an adventure for me as it is for the clients. Yeah.
It all started, as I tried to introduce you at the beginning, in 1997. You came to Nairobi with, what, $400?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
With no plans.
That's right.
Why did you come to
Well, actually, I had a pilot's license from America.
So the fixed
wing
planes?
Yes.
These are not helicopters?
That's right, yeah, flying aeroplanes.
So we're talking about Cessnas and so on?
I was actually in '96. I was 21 years old, and I was really just looking for an interesting job. I grew up in the Far East in Hong Kong, and there was really the sort of flying that I wanted to do wasn't available in that part of the world. I wanted to be a bush pilot, and I wanted to explore Africa, and so I came out here on a one-way ticket, and it was a bit of a shock at first. It took me a while to find my feet, but I met some great people and started working at a young age, flying a small aeroplane out of the Masai Mara and moving people around Kenya, and that's how it began. Yeah.
And then you joined this company, what is called Tropic Air, right?
That's
that was
correct,
2004.
Yeah.
That would have been, 7 years after you
Actually, I started working with Tropic Air even in '97. I first started working with a man called Willie Roberts, and his brother Jamie had recently founded Tropic Air. And in those days, it was a very small operation, and I used to switch between the two companies just to help him out. I did a variety of other things, but then I came online permanently in 2001.
So the first country that you covered outside of Kenya would be
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. That was 2004. Is that 6?
In 2004 was the first time I travelled to Ethiopia with a film crew.
For the BBC?
No, in that case, actually, it was a French crew. I came with the BBC later, 2006. And the BBC film was amazing, actually. They brought me up here to film the Lamagaya vultures in the Simien Mountains, yeah. And it was my first time to see that part of the country. And when we arrived at the Simien Mountains, I said to the producer, I'm a bit concerned about you wanting me to film vultures from the air, because anytime I get near a vulture, it's going to fly away. And he was quite a proper English guy, and he said, "Oh, no, Ben, we don't want you to film the vultures. We want you to be the vulture." Okay, so it was an amazing opportunity. Basically, they put a camera on the nose of the helicopter, and I got to fly around the Simien Mountains pretending to be a bird for their point of view shots. All the shots of the birds themselves were actually taken on the ground with a long lens.
And you call flying over the Simien Mountains is like Grand Canyon on steroids. Yes, explain.
I just think, as far as of all the landscapes I've ever seen anywhere in the world, and especially in Africa, where obviously I've been around the most, the Simien Mountains it's very impressive to be on the Simien Mountains and to look out at the view, but it's much more impressive to be out flying around them, looking in. The rocks have an incredible formations. It's just the most beautiful scenery, huge, deep, sharp-sided valleys and waterfalls, and and the colours as well in the landscape throughout the valley. It's a very, very special place.
What time of the day are you talking about the colours of the valley?
Dawn. At dawn.
Or also late afternoon?
Yeah. It can be. Yeah. But my favourite thing to do, and I still do it with clients, I'm actually here in Ethiopia today to begin a trip. And one of the flights we'll do is, as the sun rises, we'll fly straight into the eastern side of the Simien Mountains. And as the sun's rising and all those sort of pinks and yellows and reds are starting to light up, and you get those incredible shadows off the pinnacle formations and all that sort of stuff. It's a very inspirational place to fly, and it blows everybody away. You
were also blown away the first time you saw it way back in.
Well, that's right. I was blown away so much by what I saw during the first two filming trips I did, 2004 and 2006. And in Kenya, we were doing a lot of high-end tourism. And I started to look at Ethiopia very differently, and I thought, well, we've got an incredible trip here, just from the things that I've seen. If I can put this into a tourism trip, then I think we're going to encourage a lot of people to come and see this place.
What else in Ethiopia have you flown? I know you've been, all the tourist destinations.
My favorite area to base out of is up in Tigray. We stay at a lodge called Korkor, and that area is ideally located for us to reach out to Simien Mountains. We also go down to the Danakil Depression to see Dalol and the salt flats. We land and talk to the guys who are harvesting the salt, which they bring out on these camel trains of 2,000 camels. It's the lowest point in Africa, and it's scenically beautiful. Extremely hot. It's known as the hottest place on earth. So we get down again. Most of what we're doing is always really early in the morning, because that's when the light's the best, and that's where you really capture the beauty of it. A lot of our clients are taking photographs. Our helicopters have doors that open by sliding them backwards, so we can open them in flight. And so, yeah.
There'll be straps, of course. There.
Yeah. We give them an extra safety belt, but it's not only flying. We're also landing. We like to meet people.
That was my next question. Is it just tourism from above, or you also do learn and talk to people?
Absolutely. We do all the things that you traditionally do on the ground. We'll visit Lalibela and we'll go and see all the churches. Likewise, while we're in Tigray, we'll land and see some of the lesser-known rock-hewn churches of that area. Now, what would normally take you a day maybe to see 1 or 2 churches with all the walking, we can go and see 5 or 6 because we can land on the top of the mountain. So it gives us a greater access.
But although the adrenaline is not there.
Yeah,
it's not as you have you walked up the hill to?
Yeah, I do enjoy it. Yeah, I do. And funny enough,
this is a different story, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it is. I encourage people, if we've got time, to do some walking, because when you walk through Tigray, the people are incredibly friendly, and I think it's a really special part of the experience is to meet Ethiopians on their terms, and by just walking through the fields, people come up to you and they're friendly. I've been often offered to come into the house and eat, and this is very unique to Ethiopia. I've never been in a place that's so hospitable and where the people are so genuinely giving. Yeah, no, it's a very special part of it. I also, as you say, we're flying some very wealthy and influential people, and I think it's very good for them to connect with people that don't have so much, and to see that those people are happy and with very little. One of the places I love to visit is along the Blue Nile in that Amhara region, and we just land randomly on the river there, and the people come to us, and everyone's a bit nervous, but the helicopter's a great icebreaker. They come to see the aircraft, and then they start giggling and laughing, and inevitably we end up being offered an injera, or I normally like to bring honey with me to give them, so I've got something to give them, and it's something that they know.
That was my next question. All your trips are not pre-planned, except for the major destinations that you outlined in the first place, right?
That's right.
You just can fly and say, your clients would say, okay, let's go down there. And you do that.
In some cases, yes. Yeah, in some cases. As you say, we got our major destinations, and we stick to a flight plan. But then, yes, we're stopping off occasionally in places we might never have been before. Yeah.
So when your clients who join you on these flights, they're done with their trips, what do they tell you?
Ethiopia, they love it. Most people, when they get back to Addis, we go out for dinner. I love to show them the Addis culture as well.
You mean the nightlife?
The nightlife and the music and Asmari song houses and all that sort of stuff. And honestly, every person I've ever taken around Ethiopia all come back and say that was the best thing I've ever done. And where else can we go? So Ethiopia is actually the trip I'll always try and push people to come on first.
Oh, really?
Because it's such a special experience, yeah.
Interesting. So how many times do you do Ethiopia every year?
We're doing.
I mean, I'm talking about you.
Me personally, well, in my early years, I was doing up to 5 or 6 trips a year.
You are 41, my friend.
I'm 42.
42, yeah. But then... when were these early days?
Yeah, no. Well, my early days of doing the trips, I started backing off a little bit because I've got a lot of other things going on. We actually have 5 helicopters and 6 pilots, and so I've got a company to run as well. But I'm normally doing about 2 or 3 trips a year now.
A year?
Yeah.
Downsized deer. Yeah, okay. Why? Because you have a business to run there too.
Yeah, but we've got other pilots coming up doing it for us. Yeah.
So your company does Ethiopia every year, at least 5 or 6 times, or 7?
Every year, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. You do the 3, and
and the other guys.
Do you love coming to Ethiopia? Of course you do. When you've got a business, yeah.
I've got a lot of friends here, and it's always good to come back. I enjoy it.
Can you tell us who your clients are when you fly to Ethiopia? Can you name?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that we fly up here, you wouldn't know. No, I mean, they're all, I mean, I wouldn't have heard of them before.
But they're very rich people.
Yeah, I mean,
we're talking about 100, for example, for an 11-day trip from up north. It costs $116,000 US.
Yes, it can be. Yeah.
$116,000 US. This is not easy money, is it?
No, it's not. It's surprising actually how many people in the world can afford to travel that way. In terms of notable people, probably the most famous person we took around Ethiopia was George Bush. We put his trip together.
Spent 5 days together.
Yeah, it was quick. It was a quick trip and a difficult one because there were so many security agents and all the rest of it. So for me, it wasn't the best trip, but it was enjoyable. Otherwise, no, nobody particularly famous in Ethiopia, but we have flown famous people in.
You have, for example, flown not in Ethiopia, Ralph Lord and his family, Sting, Madonna, and of course Paul Simon, who sang for you.
Yes, that's
quite an interesting list of high-flying people with high-flying colors.
It is, and it's always interesting meeting people like that. But what's actually really nice for them when they come to Africa is that quite often they're not as famous here as they are in America. So,
but they could be high maintenance guys, right? They are.
That's right.
And that makes your job a lot difficult, right?
That's correct. So actually, the more fun trips are the people that we don't know, and just the people that can afford to come with us, not necessarily the famous ones. But yeah, we have flown a lot of well-known people, that's for sure.
The notable documentary filmmaker. Wildlife filmmaker.
David Attenborough with the BBC.
It's the BBC Wildlife series.
That's right. So, well, most of the films that I've worked on, David Attenborough did the narration for. He isn't necessarily the person who commissions the film or is out there making the film. No. The films are made by the BBC Natural History Unit. He is the voice of wildlife, though. You know, he is. He's a legend, really, at the end of the day, and he's been on television for 5 decades or so. But we actually got to meet him at the end of the Africa series, which was pretty special, and fly him around, landing him in different locations so that he could introduce different parts of the program. So yeah, working with him was probably a big highlight for me in my career, to meet the man at last.
I understand that you are also involved in supporting communities, for example, training young Kenyans.
We've got a big program with engineering, where a lot of students from the aviation engineering schools in Kenya come to us for work experience and get training there, and quite often we'll hire some of the best guys later on once they finish their degrees. But Tropic Air is a company that Jamie Roberts started, my now business partner in the helicopters. But he started with just himself and one guy in the office. Today there are nearly 80 people working there, doing everything from engineering, flying, and operations, and all sorts of different stuff. So it's.
But you're involved in conservation work, anti-poaching programs in
That's correct.
In Kenya, right?
Yeah, and we've done some.
You have this outreach stuff.
Yeah. We've done some conservation work here in Ethiopia as well.
Where? I don't know.
Out in Gambela.
What was it exactly?
We were working with the Horn of Africa. So to get an understanding of their animal movements, they needed to put satellite tracking collars on a variety of different species. And in order to do that, it's a very difficult place to move around on the ground. So we assisted with that. And we came up with a helicopter. They had a vet with a tranquilizer gun. Right. They were darting animals from the helicopter, and then we would install the collars on them and revive them. And from that, they're then able to gather the data of the wildlife's movement throughout that area.
Have you been at a particular time when there was this migration of the wildlife, like you do in Kenya, Tanzania, the wildebeest migration? I'm told that this is the second.
It is. It is the second largest mammal migration in Africa.
Yeah, after the wildebeest migration, Kenya, Tanzania.
The white-eared cob. But they do a sort of circular pattern in part of South Sudan and the western part of Ethiopia. And they cross over. It's not such a big spectacle because they don't herd the way that wildebeest do. So you don't see them in density. You just see them everywhere. They just everywhere you look.
Going one direction.
Yeah, yeah.
So you want to add new countries to your list, right? I understand you want to fly North Sudan, where you have an impeccable list of pyramids, and also you want to do what? Somalia, right? Off the coast of
Somalia. Actually, there is a place off the tip of Somalia I would really like to go. The Socotra Island. It's actually a part of Yemen, but it's just right off the Horn, and it's considered to be Africa's Galapagos. So I'd be very interested to go there. My colleague Jamie, he's off to Northern Sudan this year, and I'm planning trips in Chad. So I'm going to be flying up to Chad in late December this year.
Do you do reconnaissance flights before you organize the commercial flights?
That's the difficult part, is because we've got a lot of logistics and planning to do without that much knowledge of the ground. So that's where our partners come in. In this country, my partner's Tony Hickey of Ethiopian Quadrants, and he's been helpful in helping me find new things as we try and expand upon what we do in Ethiopia. Likewise, as I go to Chad, I have a contact for somebody who does desert trips there on the ground, and so he's actually partnering with us to assist us with all the aviation things there in Chad.
So is it easy? I mean, now you cover 6 countries, right? Is it easy to fly to those countries, so you have to go through so much paperwork and so on.
Yeah, it takes time. You have to work with the government. We have to work with the Civil Aviation Authority, and in Ethiopia, alongside the Ministry of Defence. And it's, they've been extremely helpful with us over the years.
But not an easy task.
Not an easy task. No, it takes a while to build those relationships, and also to gain the trust of the countries that we're operating in. But some are easier than others. But over time, once we've done 1 or 2 trips under our belts, once we've been to see the people in the offices and they understand who we are and what it is that we're trying to achieve, then things become easier and easier.
Is it getting easier in Ethiopia to get the permission to fly over all these places? Have you built that trust, or are you still the impregnable bureaucracy that you run into in this country?
No, we have. We've been working. We've been working here, as you said, for 11 years. And in the early days, we used to have to fly with an observer from the Ministry of Defence. Today, we actually have a satellite tracker on the aircraft, and they're content to monitor us that way, and they know us. So when we put our applications in, things actually happen pretty quickly. These days we can move with 10 days' notice. In the old days, we needed 6 weeks at least to get everything done. So. No, we're really happy working here, and we're lucky that we're allowed to do what we do.
Thank you very much, and good luck on your trip this time around. It was a pleasure having you on my show. Thank you very much indeed.